This is the Outdoor Journey Show, where life takes you outdoors. The Outdoor Journey Show with Matt Gaddis and Ty Morgan, brought to you by Journey Hunts and the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation.
Matt Gaddis and Ty Morgan with the Outdoor Journey. Welcome for joining us today, and we're going to definitely talk about a lot of different factors, a lot of different subjects on the Outdoor Journey. Today's subject, Ty, is one that's really interesting: long-distance shooting.
I think that's something I've never, ever been good at.
Yeah, and that's a good thing to admit, because unfortunately I think there's a lot of guys in the woods, a lot of hunters in the woods who think they're good at it.
Right.
And it's become this craze, long distance shooting, where everybody wants to shoot out to 1,000 meters, to 1,000 yards, and talk about how they're good at distance because they see it done on TV. But it's a pursuit, not just in America.
Right.
It's a pursuit all around the world now. And there's some reason for it. But some people need to just say, I'm not really good at that.
I'm not.
And see where it goes
First
from
one
there.
to admit it in the room here.
There you go. I like stretching distance with a bow. Shooting distance with a gun is new to me. And, it's the first thing you think about is calibers. And, you go back into history and into military history in particular. You go back to a 308. And then today you jump up to your 300s, whether it's a Win Mag, whatever it is, and then you go into your 338s. People are concentrating on calibers, on bullets, on all their setup in order to shoot distance. And it really is an interesting subject.
But isn't it, I guess I've always looked at it the way I was raised in hunting. Not that long distance shot is bad by any means, but it's all about that hunt. And as close as you can get is, to me, kind of raises the your elevation as a hunter, But, I understand there's that monster bull that you're not going to get that close, and so taking that long shot is worth it.
Yeah, and that's really, most archers are going to talk to you about how close they can get, but even in the archery world now, they're talking about how far can you get and still make an effective shot, and that's what's happening with the rifle world. It's how far can we get and make an effective shot, and you could see kind of the growth in this because of all the schools now. I mean, there's DR, long-range concepts, and it's a veteran-founded, veteran-owned, and veteran-operated long-range school, and very effective at teaching distance. And Gunworks offers long-range university, where they're teaching you how to shoot out to 1,000 meters effectively, and they even provide guns and scopes and everything for you. They're capitalizing on it. And kind of the long-standing school has been Thompson Long-Range Shooting School, and there's many, many others. So the craze is driving the market to start providing more and more training, for this kind of shooting, for this long-distance shooting.
Well, I would look at it this way: without proper training, it's a lucky shot. That's really what it all boils down to. Yeah. If you say you got them at 700 yards, more than likely, if you haven't been trained properly, that was probably 1 in a million shot that you just got it. And I agree with having these schools that teach you, because you watch a lot of these military trained shooters. There is a lot more than just point, aim, shoot.
Oh, there's a whole lot more. There's all kinds of factors that come in. I mean, everything from barometric pressure to wind to all kinds of factors, your temperature, outside temperature, everything. What elevation are you at? Lots of factors. And the problem that I'm seeing in this area is people turn on a TV show, one of the shows like Best of the West, where they're shooting at great distance. And I had the privilege a couple of years ago of actually being at the Purple Moose Awards. And I was talking with one of the young men on that show, who's a regular on that show. And he was telling me that really what they've done is they've shown the capability of the gun and the capability of the hunter who is trained. But the problem that he sees is there's guys in the outdoors now who put a turret on a scope that tells you, at 1,000 yards, just turn your dial, and the gun's going to do what the gun can do. The gun's capable,
right? But
the hunter hasn't practiced. And he was telling me, so what's happened is there's a lot of wounded animals, a lot of things going on in the outdoor world now, because people think because a gun is capable, because your equipment's capable, that you're capable, And, he goes to the range and shoots every day at those distances. So he's training, and he actually was just touching on the fact that there's a little bit of negativity that has come out of this because of people thinking, just because of picking up that equipment, spending some money on some good equipment, that they're capable. And there's a little danger in that for sure.
I guess, adding that factor of how many people, or wounded animals for that matter, we've been trained since kids that you track until you find. And man, shooting an animal or attempting to shoot an animal at 1,000 yards, the odds of finding that, if it's a wounded animal, are pretty slim. And so I think you're right. Proper training, or, just don't take the shot until you have it.
Yeah, and I came from Pennsylvania, and so back there in the woods, you're in the woods in Pennsylvania, you can't see more than 100 yards usually when you're in the hardwoods. And so everything was up close there. And there's a value. Every 100 yards that you can gain in an ethical, accurate shot out here in the West, you're gaining your percentage of opportunity of harvest are just going up. And so there is a value in distance. From 200 to 300, you've increased. From 300 to 500, your opportunity for harvest actually grows exponentially. Between that 500 and that 1,000-yard range, that's where it starts getting pretty technical. And you've got to be good. You have to have put some time in, and you have to practice.
Now, a little bit later today, we're actually going to be talking with somebody who knows a little bit about weaponry, how to build them, and the proper shots, I would say.
Yeah, we're going to have Dennis True in here. And Dennis, honestly, in my life, has been the most instrumental guy when it comes to training me, and actually trains my family also on how to shoot guns. And Dennis, he'll tell his story, and I'm not going to take any of that away, but his story is quite incredible. And this is a guy that at 1,000 meters, I mean, you're talking about shooting groups like I can dream about.
Yeah.
His groups at 1,000 meters look like mine sometimes at 100 meters. Just an amazing guy, and he's going to walk us through some of the technology, some of the equipment, and some of the training necessary. And Dennis operates out of Red Hawk Rifles right here in Grand Junction. A great company that gives you the right equipment, the right training, the right know-how to be able to do this. But, Ty, in the end of the day, it all comes down to being able to effectively handle your equipment,
right,
yourself, and being able to shoot in an ethical manner. It comes down to a matter of ethics.
Right. Well, and I think, it goes to say, too, for the archer, is same concept. When I was a child, younger, I was a teenager, but that was the thing. It was every single day, not every other day or on the weekends. It was every day you were after school, you were out there practicing. And you didn't get to go out into the woods. I spent an entire summer shooting until I was prepared to actually go into the wilderness, and at that moment, then I would be able to have an opportunity to shoot at an animal. And so I think, just like anything, a lot of people, assume they have the capabilities, but until you get out there, buck fever, comes into play. I mean, there's many, many things, especially if that trophy bull comes across that ridge that happens to be at 1,000 yards. There's a lot of activities that go through your body alone that can ruin a shot and possibly wound an animal.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where that training does come into play. Repetition's the king of all learning. And it's that way with a bow. It's that way with a gun. And it really needs to become second nature. Because of your repetition, because of your training, exactly what you're going to do so that when things do get exciting, adrenaline is not controlling you, but rather your practice and your methodology, your procedures are all falling into place.
Absolutely. And of course, I wanted to jump into, if you have questions anytime when we're on the weekends, we'd love to answer them. I may not be able to answer them as accurate as Matt will, but I can certainly throw in my 2 cents. But you can email Matt directly at
Matt, M-A-T-T, at JourneyHunts.com.
And we've been teamed up with the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. They've given us some knives to give away, and we want to start giving them away. So we need some good questions. So whatever they are, there's no bad questions here on this show.
That's right. And you send us your question, and we'll be glad to answer your questions. And like Ty said, we're going to give away some great prizes. And our sponsors are really stepping up to the plate and taking care of us in that area.
All right. Looking forward to that and talking with
Dennis True.
This is the Outdoor Journey Show, where life takes you outdoors. This is the Outdoor Journey Show, where life takes you outdoors. The Outdoor Journey Show with Matt Gaddis and Ty Morgan, brought to you by Journey Hunts and the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation.
Matt Gaddis and Ty Morgan back with long-distance shooting today with the Outdoor Journey, and we have Dennis True in the studio today, and Dennis works with Red Hawk Rifles local here in Fruita. And Dennis, we just want to talk to you about some of the specifics of outdoor long-distance shooting. Of course, we wouldn't do that indoor, so it's definitely outdoor. But Dennis, we were talking earlier in the show about just how prevalent this has become in our society, people wanting to shoot distance. And how have you seen an increase in long-distance shooting?
Well, I've seen a lot of this stuff has increased quite a bit due to mostly due to the shows that are on TV, the hunting shows, the long-distance shows that are aired on television all the time. That's where the biggest changes come. There's always been guys that have been involved in it, but the television section of the sports channels have just increased that probably tenfold, I would say, at least.
Would you encourage, though, that training is necessary, especially for that, call it buck fever, if you will, but those guys that want to get out there, and it's that long shot that is more of a story, to be able to tell versus, I just got that monster buck or bull, and but taking those long shots requires some practice.
Oh, I agree. I mean, I think that some of the things that have happened is that they exhibit the long shots on some of these shows that should be taken very, very cautiously, and carefully, because it does require a lot more training. And when you get past a certain yardage and some of the stuff, the distance for the next 100 yards is more than the height of the animal that you're shooting at. You could miss by 5 feet if you can't judge distance very well, and it's very easy to judge a lot of the things. Yeah. The biggest problem that you get into is you can always work off of the judgment of distance based on the gravitational pull of the earth, but the biggest change that you always have to deal with is the wind, and it can be blowing on one side of a valley and absolutely not blowing on the other side of the valley at all, depending on where it's coming from.
Interesting. A lot of thought goes into that.
Dennis, has equipment come along to a point where it's that much better, or is it more accessible, or really, what really drives the equipment side of the house? Has it changed very much?
Oh, the equipment's gotten a lot better. Basically, due to the digital age, now we can take something and stick it in a CNC machine and punch a button and have a computer program down to a 10,000th of an inch, and it just turns it out. And when you turn around, you've got a complete piece that's made. There's actually machines that are capable of doing that. And if you were doing that with a micrometer and a file, as it was done in the old days, that you're down to 1,000th and much less than that. It's pretty hard to do. So it becomes a trial and error thing by hand. But now you can almost mass produce perfection.
And does that take away what Ty was talking about? Does that erase the need for training? Is it that good, or you still have to train?
No. One of the things that's really important is the fact that, I can make a piece of machinery that's perfect, but the air factor is always in one thing, and then that's the person, because the difference in what can be done is based on your fallacies, not the piece of machinery. We can build the machinery eventually to the exactly perfect spec. The other thing that changes so much, as people don't realize, is that your ammunition changes. I mean, the difference in a ballistic coefficient of a bullet can be as much as 30% difference if you go from sea level to 10,000 feet. So your drop characteristics, air density, the spin of the earth when you shoot far enough actually changes. Whether the crosswinds blowing from the right or the left depends on which way a bullet actually goes. So when you get to a certain distance, it takes a lot more training, background to physically hit something every time you pull the trigger in. If you're going to do that on an animal, I think you owe the animal that, to actually make sure that you're 100% sure that you can make that shot.
Yeah, you're not throwing a hook shot from half court here and hoping it makes it.
No, it's just, and I saw a thing the other day, what is it, the guy, Chuck Adams, it's a big bow hunter, he's like, anytime you can hit 10 out of 10 at half or 2/3 the size of the animal that you're shooting at, and he said if you shoot at 40 yards and you can do that, then you should only shoot 30. Well, do the same thing with the rifle. Why change the venue, just because you're using a bow versus a rifle? So if you could shoot a 3-inch group at 600 yards, which is a half MOA, then you should shoot 500 yards. Back it up that same percentage of what you're actually shooting.
It increases the accuracy opportunity, or?
Well, sure it does. I mean, you just. Why shoot any further than you absolutely have to? Just for giggles? I mean, that's not what you want to do that at a target. Don't do that at a live animal. And I think sometimes they don't. On the shows, sometimes they make it look too easy. You got to remember, I mean, I probably shoot 100 rounds, almost 100 rounds a day of high-powered rifle when I test almost all of their rifles for them, and I work up the biggest percentage of their loads between me and one of the other owners. We work up 100% of their loads for custom development. And, when you shoot that many, I have a 400-yard range in my front yard. If I'm testing a load, I can walk out there and virtually test it immediately. Mm-hmm. If I fire part of a load and I don't like it, or I think it's doing better than it should be doing, I can go in the house, fix it, come right back out and try it again. You just don't have that availability most of the time. And the guys that run these places that do that, I mean, they have that ability, so they're good at it. But when you sell equipment to people, they usually don't have that kind of ability and capabilities, and they don't. Number one, they don't have the training either, so they're not used to doing that.
Well, let alone the time. I mean, I think most people
don't
give enough time, let alone have it, to acquire that kind of training.
Yeah, I've been reloading and shooting long range for 47 years.
So you've got a little time there to do it.
Yeah, this is my first week on the job.
So just throwing a turret, the new fad is putting a turret on a scope that's set for distance, for that specific bullet, for that specific speed, for all that doesn't make somebody instantly into a 1,000-meter or 1,000-yard shooter.
Absolutely not. And as a matter of fact, and you know this, you know me pretty well, Matt. You know that I don't believe in turrets, because the turret limits that gun to that load at that elevation, at that temperature. Everything where I test that load, if I test that load at 5,600 feet at my house at 55 degrees with 18% humidity, and I get a load that's shooting less than a quarter of an inch, it doesn't mean that that's going to do that. Mm-hmm. I mean, it means it did it that day. And I can shoot 10 of those loads for a week, but still I'm at 5,500 feet. I'm shooting a load that shoots at this elevation, and then I can go back and say, okay, well, it was between 50 and 70 degrees that week. Okay, it shoots between 50 and 70 degrees that week. But at 32 degrees, it may not shoot the same. The air density changes. Everything changes. Now there are programs out there you can change the weather conditions on every shot you take. That's one of the advantages that we have nowadays. When you talk about technology, you put those little apps, you can put them on your telephone. I have one on mine that'll tell me out to 2,000 yards exactly what the bullet's going to do when it goes below subsonic, when it's doing whatever it's going to do, how much drift I've got, depending. I can change the miles per hour with the flip of my little finger as far as a crosswind. But that doesn't mean that the load that I built for you last year in the wintertime is going to shoot exactly as it should this year in the summertime. That's not going to happen. Man, the pressure increases, the temperature increases. We built one for one of the gentlemen here in town that works on the sheriff's department that up at my house was a quarter-inch load. We got down here, and he bought the gun and uses the gun and was out shooting it, and he had to download the load 2 grains of powder because it was too hot down here. There's only 1,000 feet of difference between my house and here, but it was colder there, and it was warmer here. All of those things make a very big difference when you start talking about making something do something at 1,000 yards, especially on an animal. Mm-hmm. It's just not an easy thing to do at all.
Dennis, Red Hawk Rifles, local here on the Western Slope in Fruita, but their business is predominantly taken on the internet. They don't do walk-in traffic. They deal on the internet. RedHawkRifles.com is where you can find what they have to offer. Just briefly, if you can tell us what they offer to somebody interested in long distance shooting.
Well, they offer custom-made rifles. Generally, they're built on Remington actions, but if you have other actions that you'd like something built off of, they do build one off of, and they offer, most of them are Kevlar stocks. We do offer some aluminum chassis stuff. They offer, well, basically any custom rifle barrel that you'd like to put on it. We mainly or have been using Douglas Supremes. They do some Schneider barrels, and now they're going to use some Packnor barrels. They do offer cryogenic treatment for blued steel rifles. We offer nitrated stuff, the 1,000-degree bath stuff. It takes all the memory out of the steel so that the steel is basically functions the same every time that the explosion goes off. One of the things people need to realize is when you start working with something like a piece of metal like that every time the explosion goes off, they turn into a tuning fork. You want the vibration to happen exactly the same every time. And the more consistently you can get the metal molecules through the steel, the better off that the thing's going to shoot. So most of the stuff that they build is built to shoot under a half inch or at least at a half inch with some factory ammunition. And it's not going to shoot with every box of bullets you go out there and get, but generally you can find a box of factory ammunition bullets that they will shoot under a half inch of. And then we do custom loading, and most of the stuff all will shoot under a half inch. And I've had some that have shot less than a tenth of an inch at 100 yards.
That's pretty good stuff there.
And they offer optics in the way of, we sell the Night Force, Zeiss. They can get you anything you want, but those are the main two lines. It's mostly upper end stuff, but one of the things that I've found since I've started doing business with them originally about 4 or 5 years ago, which is about as long as they've been around, is that they've got some really good people, outsourced people that in the mountains out here that build portions of their rifles that do an excellent job. And I've just dollar for dollar value, I've had a hard time finding anybody that builds a better quality gun to do what, for the dollars you spend on it. The value is pretty good.
Good deal. Well, Dennis True in the studio with us. Long distance shooting was the subject today. The outdoor journey where life takes you outdoors. Ty, another great opportunity to discuss with an expert exactly what's happening in the outdoors.
Absolutely. Make sure you join us next week. And a special thanks to our sponsor, Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, for being a part of the show as well. And we look forward to chatting with you next Saturday.
This is the Outdoor Journey Show, where life takes you outdoors.